Good morning, and here from our desk at Fiji Village, I'm Vijay Narayan, and the latest update. You must be wondering what's happening in relation to the FICAC related issues. Well, it comes down to the wire today, as we know that the big question is who will legally head FICAC, and that's the biggest question now, as current Acting Commissioner Lavi Rokoika was not recommended to President Ratu Nengama Lalambalavu by the Judicial Services Commission as required under the Act. Based on this, a few things are expected to happen, and the assessment of Fiji Village is that the Judicial Services Commission will recommend to the President later this morning that Lavi Rokoika is not the legally appointed Acting FICAC Commissioner and she should leave the office. This is also based on the High Court ruling of Justice Dane Twingere, where he had said that the JSC is expected to decide on Rokoika and also on Barbara Malimali as her removal as FICAC Commissioner by the President on the advice of the Prime Minister was unlawful. The JSC did not recommend Rokoika's name to the President, and we know that she was also not part of the shortlist for the job. This morning, other things are expected to happen. Now, looking at the law, in 2019, there were changes to the FICAC Act, and sections 5 and 6 were amended. It stated that pursuant to the amendment, a commissioner and deputy commissioner of FICAC are to be appointed by the President on the recommendation of the Judicial Services Commission following consultation by the Judicial Services Commission with the Attorney General. We know the emergency meeting yesterday by JSC also resulted in consultation with the Attorney General, and we know that the recommendation is ready to go this morning to the President's office. Now, as these things develop, Fijian national Charlie Chatters, he remains in custody now, second night, overnight in FICAC custody, but he managed to write a letter from FICAC custody that was given to us by his wife Vanessa Chatters. And Charlie writes that he was approached by whistleblowers with the information that FICAC had hired the daughter of the Fiji Sports Council CEO just days after FICAC had cleared the same CEO of converting a public sponsorship for private benefit. The letter by Charlie says at Nadi International Airport on Saturday, he was offered a deal. Tell FICAC about the whistleblowers and he can get on his flight. Chatters says FICAC campaigns relentlessly for public and private bodies to set up whistleblower policies, but FICAC itself has no such whistleblower pro policy. He says FICAC acts like Moses on top of the mountain, but they ain't Moses. Chatters asks who investigates the investigators and how can you expect Fiji to unsee things that are so obvious to see. He says family and friends being preferred by a taxpayer-funded law enforcement agency with almost limitless powers to punish is wrong. However, they try to dress up the charges. Charlie Chatters also asks who benefits from his prosecution. Now, he's expected to be caution interviewed again this morning, and there's an expectation, his lawyer has said, who will be going into FICAC office this morning, that Charlie Chatters will be charged later today. We are also monitoring that, and his lawyer, Sephoran Fatiaki, has stressed that this is abuse of powers by FICAC to try to hassle his client right from Saturday from Nadi Airport. And when he refused to reveal his sources, he was brought to FICAC here in Suva from Nadi in the middle of the night at about 7:30 on Saturday night, and Charlie remains in custody as we speak. That's the latest so far. Stay with Fiji Village.